This is the Art Beauty Podcast where we tell the real truth about the fake shit. Hi, everybody. I'm Amber, and today my fabulous co-host is Miss Juliana Brewer. She is the co-founder of Happy Second Birthday. This is a beautiful skincare line, not only for people who are cancer warriors, survivors, but anybody with sensitive skin, rosacea, pregnant women. So I'm so excited to talk about this today, and welcome to the show, Juliana.
Hi, Amber. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
So where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Washington State now. We just moved here a few months ago.
Amazing. How do you like it?
I love it.
Okay.
I'm originally from the West Coast. So my brother and fellow co-founder Jay, our business is based out of the Bay Area in California. I am actually a part of a military family. My husband is active duty Navy, so that's why we move around pretty frequently. And I also was formerly in the Navy. I'm now in the reserve. So it's been helpful to be able to move around with him and find a good reserve unit.
But first of all, I was blown away by this company that you created. But now, I mean, first of all, thank you both for your service. That's incredible. But wow, you were in the Navy and now have also launched a amazing business. Good for
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Ooh, all right.
We've got, our lives are pretty busy.
Yeah.
But it's helpful that at least my brother is at the home base always, he doesn't have any plans to move anytime soon. So that's really nice just to keep it in California because we don't ever know where we're going to end up in a few years.
So how, before we get into the podcast now, how was it being a female in the Navy?
I am fortunate to say that when I joined, the Navy had come a long way. I served on ships. I am a surface warfare officer. So when I got to my first ship, there were a lot of women there. And it was definitely helpful, but I will say I've had friends who had tougher experiences because they were the only female on board or in a command, or it depends on what community you're in. In the Navy, there are so many different specialties that you can choose to go into, and some of them may be more male dominant. So you encounter a lot of the traditional, just some people who are not, who are more resistant to change. So it really varies, but I'd say overall, I mean, things have really improved and they continue to. The hardest part I'd say about being a woman in the Navy is just, when it comes to wanting to start a family, when you get to that point in your life, unfortunately, that's where a lot of the women drop out of the ranks because it's just hard to, have a child and then also try to maintain a career where you're expected to deploy. And I'd say that for really any armed service, not just the Navy, but
I mean, really any career, let's be honest. It's hard
yeah,
for
in
women
any
to have a
career, right?
career.
Yeah.
And not only women, although women do have that extra, essentially year of having to carry the child. But I feel like also any single parent, any person who is parenting, who is the sole or main parent, and then also is expected to keep up in their career. I mean, amen to any of you who are out there doing it, who have done it. I'm not a parent, so, but I know it's like hard enough for me to like keep my stuff together day to day. So,
yeah. Oh my gosh, I have so much respect for single parents because they're trying to make an income to support their family, and yet, childcare today is so difficult, really, and with inflation and just housing prices and, so much across the board. Like, my respect for single parents is, I mean, I look at them just like, I don't know how you do it, because even though my spouse is gone a lot, I don't have the extra responsibility of financially, supporting the family necessarily. Like, at least I have that help when in a partner. But for those who are just completely on their own, like, oh gosh, that is so hard.
I mean, before we get into this podcast, for listeners who've listened for a long time, my husband and I went through 5 rounds of IVF, really trying to have a baby, and it did not work out for us. But don't hate me. I got to be honest. I don't think from now, I'm like, maybe it wasn't the worst thing. We have a lot of flexibility, more disposable income now because kids are super expensive. And I try to kind of look at it as like, hey, well, now we've got way more time to just do whatever it is we want to do. So, but to all the parents out there, I respect you immensely. I don't know how you do it. To my parents, I don't know how you put up with me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are saints in and of yourselves. And you're a parent.
Yes.
Yes.
I have
And
two
how many?
girls.
Two girls. All
They
right. And
are 4 and 2.
so still in that very sweet age.
Sweet and also difficult because, they're trying to then form their own personalities and enforce what they want. So, especially in the 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, she's like 2 going on 21.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
pretty much.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I want to talk to you today. So we met through New Beauty. You were on one of the live shows that I host, and I was so touched by your story. So we know October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so for not every episode, but for a lot of the episodes, I've been trying to find content that is really highlighting people who are making differences in the lives of cancer warriors, cancer survivors, but also that can apply to everybody, right? So anybody who has sensitive skin, as we mentioned before, women who are pregnant, your line really caters to that. What I felt so in love or inspired by was your story of how you founded Happy Second Birthday, and I'm wondering if you would share that with us.
Yes, yes. My brother Jay and I, we really were inspired by our dad's experience with cancer. Our father, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma back in 2012. And, over the years, he went through so many rounds of chemotherapy, radiation. And when it came time for a bone marrow transplant, so that was 6 years into his journey, we were like, you know what, let's do something about this, because all those treatments really affect a patient's skin in ways that you may be aware of, but when it actually happens and you're struggling through, and when we're talking years of this, it's like you're looking for something else, right? So our dad had things like radiation dermatitis, and rashes, just really dry, itchy, inflamed, like sensitive skin. And some of these symptoms, anyone with sensitive skin might experience, like eczema, rosacea, just dermatitis in general. It's hard. Like,
Yeah.
it's physically painful, but it's also emotionally painful, because you look at your skin and you're reminded of it, maybe concerned about it a lot, and just don't feel good about it. Generally, if you look good, you feel good. And so it's kind of the cycle. And of course, there are products that are safe for cancer patients, recommended by dermatologists, and our dad was using them all. But it got to a point where he felt like he was lacking that self-care experience of kind of something more than a product that may remind him that he's limited in what he can use. Or there are great products that are catered for cancer patients that are really targeting these concerns, but even the packaging, it may seem very clinical.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, my dad will look on the sink counter and be like, well, these are just his products that only he can use, and my mom's got other ones. And I speak of this because we are a Korean family. So all four of my mom, my brother, my dad, and I, we were very accustomed to different types of skincare and experimenting, trying different brands. And so skincare had always been a big emphasis in our lives, just because of our culture.
Right.
And so when Jay and I were just like, maybe we could find something that makes them feel better during the skin routine. And really, we couldn't. So that's how we were inspired to make our own.
I mean, I love that story. By the way, my mother's Korean. I don't know if I ever told you that. But
Oh, I love
she was adopted into I feel like the South. And so funny enough, she's always like, how did you end up in skincare and beauty? Because her life was very much not that, despite her Korean heritage. Her upbringing was not that at all.
that.
But you were saying something before too, when you're going through all these treatments and your skin, it physically hurts. It must have been really hard too, because touch is such an important way that we can show people that we care. And I bet when your skin is just in that much pain you can't even get a hug.
It's hard. Yeah. Even sitting down, my dad would get
Oh,
sores in
yeah.
places. It's like, you're going through something physically difficult. So of course you need a rest. But if you're always sitting, the skin on your bottom, like around your back, I mean, it's like you feel like you can't win, right? And
Yeah.
so cloth materials, what type of clothes and blankets, he became very sensitive to, just that. Even blanket weights, he was always cold, but heavy blankets would hurt him. Like the extra weight hurt his skin. So then we were trying to find really lightweight, but still warm um, fabrics. And then he found his favorite like jackets and shirts and just kind of lived in those. And, you know, it affects so many aspects of your life that we take for granted that we don't think about. It's like, oh, I'll just put on this shirt today, not worry
Right.
about it. But everything had to be changed, including like laundry detergent, changing everything to fragrance free. Diet, of course, is a major aspect of that. So where we just felt like we really could make a big difference, that we were passionate about as a family and had some experience in, was skincare.
We're going to talk all about your skincare line, which I've used the cleanser. I love the cleanser. It is currently sitting in my bathroom right now. Both my husband and I love it. For people who are listening though right now, and might either be going through, might be the cancer warriors right now themselves, or perhaps people know somebody who's going through that. You mentioned before certain blankets, fabrics. Can you share some of those that are off the top of your head that that really maybe worked for him?
Unfortunately, I can't think of specific brands because a lot of them my mom actually brought back from Korea.
Okay,
They
okay,
they have some really great like lightweight,
okay,
so on that end, I'm sorry I'm not as helpful, but things like 100% cotton and even organic cotton really made a difference, which is a little bit softer.
sure.
He stayed away from a lot of synthetic materials just because they would irritate his skin when he was going through treatment. I'm not
Right,
saying the entire time, right? But when
right.
you're going through treatment, especially during that time, is just when everything in your body changes and just becomes a lot more sensitive.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to, I want to say like his jacket, his favorite one was one that I'd gotten him from, I want to say like a sporting goods store. I'm terrible at pronouncing brands, but it was Arcturix. I don't know
Oh
that.
yeah, like I think it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
Artex, or you might be right. I know
Yeah,
that one. Yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay,
Because it was really light, and
right.
he loved how light it was, but it kept him warm, and he lived in that jacket. And like slippers, keeping the feet always warm, the socks.
Okay.
um yeah, it,
Warmth,
it sounds basic, but
coziness.
it's just paying attention to each of those elements. I will say for the clothes, for anyone going through cancer treatments, making sure it's easy for if they need to have a port installed, like for because they have to have their blood run so much, that clothes that are easy to take on and off, that's so like button downs are
Yeah.
helpful instead of
Okay.
shirts over the head.
That's a
um
great tip. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, you know, I don't know if people picked up on this. You've been talking about your father in the past tense.
Yeah.
Um, can you tell us about how you came up with the name Happy Second Birthday?
Yes. Well, when we came up with the idea for the brand, like I said, it was around when he was approaching a bone marrow transplant time frame. And then finally, when he did get it, I distinctly remember this. I was brainstorming with Jay, and I was visiting my family actually, because at the time I lived in Japan. We were stationed
Okay.
overseas. And so I had had my first daughter, and she was 6 months old. So we came to the US, and stayed for a while. And my dad, when he got his bone marrow transplant, on the transplant day at the hospital, they call that a second birthday because it's your second chance at life. And that's for
Yeah.
any transplant.
Yeah.
So they even bring out a tiny little cake, and it's a really nice celebration. And so Jay and I, we were in our living room of my parents' house and trying to think of a name for our brand. And a lot of it was a play on our last name, just all
Mm.
kinds of things, right? We research what's out there, what makes sense. And ultimately, we're just like, well, it was his second birthday. Like, why not call it Happy Second Birthday? And we knew that was a big risk because immediately when people hear that, they think it's some child's product, right? Like a birthday thing. And also just it doesn't really go with skincare. And even online when you search, like there's so many different things that come up. So we knew that was risky, but ultimately we wanted to capture the essence and the reason why we started the brand. And it was in our dad's honor. So yeah, that's how we came to the name. And the transplant, we thought it was successful. Unfortunately, it wasn't. The cancer came back, and then our dad ended up having to do another treatment. This is kind of like the last resort. It's called CAR T cell treatment, where they actually genetically alter um your body. Like they take some of your cells and genetically alter some of that and then put it back in. And so it's very high risk. And it was scary when it happened because it can affect your brain chemistry. And so like our dad's personality kind of changed a bit.
Yeah.
And then it eventually, he returned to his regular self. But like it was just a really big, even more scary time. And unfortunately, that still didn't work. And so he passed away last year in 2021. But we're grateful for the time that we had with him because honestly, when he was diagnosed, he was stage 4.
Yeah.
The doctors thought he had a few months. We consider it a miracle that he actually was with us for 9 years after that. And what I want to say, to anyone listening is just something my mom really pointed out that I thought was important. When my dad, before he was diagnosed, he had symptoms, here and there, and he would go get tested, blood tested, and just all kinds of things with doctors, and they could not figure out what was wrong with him. And this happened for a while. And it wasn't until his kidney failed that ultimately they figured out what it was. But my mom brought up a really good point of, when it comes to our health and when you do go to the doctor, make sure you let them know of things that happened in the past recently. Because our dad, when there were some symptoms, he didn't think they were all connected or relevant to tell the doctor at the time he went, because he only brought up whatever concern he had in that moment, but didn't bring up the other things, that seemed out of the ordinary or which I think the biggest thing, he was having night sweats and then sores, but he
Okay.
didn't think those were connected and they didn't happen at the same time. And so the doctors didn't have all the pieces together. So my mom was always emphasizing to my brother and me, just like, make sure, even if you think it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with whatever's happening, give them the whole picture because you never know.
You never know. And you're
Yeah.
so right to be your own best health at we have to. I feel like most doctor visits, and God bless them. I mean, doctors work hard, but are maybe 15 minutes. So that is wonderful advice. And I have to say, I'm so sorry for your loss. But what a beautiful way to be able to honor your father. And then he actually must have gotten to see some of this business sort of take off.
Yes, I mean, he actually tried a lot of our formulations.
That's amazing.
It took us over 2 years to finalize our first launch products because we went through so many different variations. And what's tricky about clean skincare is that the cleaner you get, the texture becomes, you sacrifice the texture. It
Okay.
becomes more watery because when you use skincare that has like a nice luxurious creamy feeling or it has body, there's stuff put in there that helps give it that lovely texture and experience. So as we were formulating and we would give examples of products that we like, but these are the ingredients we don't want. We were very strict on ingredients. And so the lab, God bless them. I mean, we were pretty picky on that. And so we went back and forth a lot. They were trying to replicate a lot of textures that we wanted, but ultimately, if you want it truly clean, you got to give some of that up. So
Yeah.
it took us a really long time. And I'm specifically talking about our moisturizer, right? Jay knew, my brother Jay, he knew he didn't want something that left you with a shine. Like we were trying to get a matte finish, but
Okay.
we ended up, it's not totally matte. It's just kind of, it's not dewy. I'd say it's pretty neutral, but it's hydrating. And it was really hard to get that moisturizer texture because of our limitations and that we put on ourselves of just, any ingredient that had research of some sort of possible connection to cancer, we were just like, no, we're not taking any chance on this. So, we gave the lab like a very strict list of ingredients to work with or not work with, rather.
Right.
And our dad was happy to be, one of the testers of just as a patient, just
Yeah.
how it made him feel, what he liked, didn't like about it. And his feedback was great in that. And so, yeah, it took us several years, and we're like that with every product. We want to make sure that what we put out is truly safe for anyone going through cancer. And I say that with a caveat that there are different types of cancer, which means there are different types of treatments. So always check with your doctor, of course. But when we say it's safe for cancer, we've cleared it with our two advisors. We have a dermato-oncologist, Dr. Kwong, who was actually one of our dad's doctors, and she specializes in dermatology for cancer patients. So
Right.
that was really great to have her on board. And then Dr. Holmig is a dermatologist, more in terms of cosmetic surgery, and a different angle, but still really beneficial because our brand is not only for cancer patients. So we wanted to make sure we have that other aspect of, hey, how does this feel? And what are these ingredients like for someone who's just looking for help for their sensitive skin or just really healthy skin?
I mean, I have normal skin and I love your cleanser. I love your cleanser, one, because it does what it needs to do. It removes my makeup. My face feels clean. It doesn't feel stripped. But I really love knowing that there's nothing bad in there. I
Mhm.
feel like as a society, we are starting to become more and more aware of the products that we're putting on our face, on our bodies, which eventually we know can get into our bloodstream. But it's still, I've worked in beauty for 20 years. I still have trouble decoding a label.
Yeah.
So and these ingredients are just it's not easy. So when you find a brand like yours, and I was so honored to have you on, and I was no, of course, New Beauty picked you up because your products not only deliver and are good for anybody, but also people with super sensitive skin who are pregnant, who are undergoing cancer treatments, or who have had that in the past. But also for the regular gal like myself, and trust me, I get to use everything. I love it. My husband loves it too. We both really, really love it. Um,
I'm
you
really
know,
glad to hear that.
yeah, it's just great products, and the fact that, again, that you're putting something on your body that doesn't have those toxic chemicals is important. Um, you mentioned you have this advisory board. I'm glad that you brought it up. And you keep talking about your lab, and I think one of the things that's a nice point of difference of your brand is that you have sort of that intersection of the K beauty and the US, right? Because you work with a lab in Korea, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes. And we chose to do that for several reasons. I mean, it's a connection to our heritage.
right.
And I think many people are aware that K beauty is just
It's
it's
a
amazing, right? And they're fast. That's the
Yeah.
thing. They're always on top of the latest innovations. They are the trendsetters, right? And so we really appreciated that advantage, but we also wanted to have products home based, made in the US. And our
Mhm.
lab is actually based out of California, like close to us. So we could actually go there and, talk to the chemist and just like drop off and pick up products and just have that proximity and the benefit of that. So we actually started off with US based products. And then the thing is, it took us so long
Yeah.
because we were going through so many of these formulations. As I was saying, it took us 2 years, and we were just like, you know, we might want another lab that can help with the pace because we are taking a little bit longer than we had expected and just trying to really get it to the point that we are proud of and happy to provide to anyone who is looking for that kind of product. So
Right.
that's ultimately what led us to expanding to finding a lab in Korea. Um, and the products that we have made in Korea are the mist, our hydrating pre and probiotic facial mist, and then our lip balm. And I will say, our brand was inspired by our dad's experience with cancer. but it doesn't mean every product is safe for cancer patients. So I wanted to highlight the two that we do not recommend, which is the exfoliating cleanser, because it's an exfoliant.
Exfoliant, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so right off the bat. And that's why that's one for, it's great for pregnant women, breastfeeding women, and anyone else who's looking to eliminate that second step of exfoliation. And it is really gentle, where some people think it's not doing anything, but if you give it more than 1 or 2 tries,
Yeah, it's doing stuff.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll just notice it's a difference in your skin. And I want to say that our brand, we're fully aware it is not sexy by any means. Like, the packaging is neutral colored, and we purposely chose that because we want men and women to use it and feel like it works for them, right? And so we purposely went for a unisex look, and they're fragrance free. Most of them are. The other one that I mentioned, the mist, we don't recommend, only because it's got a few citrus oils. And really that was so that the mist experience is a little bit heightened,
Right.
because it's mostly water. So if
Right.
it doesn't have some sort of other sensorial, experience, then it might not add to it. So that was the only other reason why those two are not recommended for cancer patients. But overall, all the other products are, and they all are fragrance free.
Hmm.
And then I mentioned that whole clean texture of just being a little more on the watery side. So we're aware that there's so many products and brands out there that just feel nicer, may smell better. And so at first glance, ours are neutral colored. They don't have a smell, so some people, I think, when they first try it, like, give it one try, and they're like, I don't really get it. And so we call them elevated essentials, right? Our brand, they work well with other products. We're not going to say our brand alone has everything. Like, we don't have the serums that are recommended, but it works well with makeup, sunscreen, and just very good essentials to have in your collection. And also when you've got skin concerns coming up, because skin is always
Yeah.
changing,
Yeah. It's
right?
always changing. Yep.
Yeah. And then you travel, or you're somewhere else, different weather, and then it may flare up or something happens. Like, just know that ours are always there to help you balance your skin back and just get it to where you want.
I mean, and I haven't tried any of your other products. And I think people who've listened to this know this isn't paid. You're not sponsoring. Like, I tell it like it is. I love the cleanser. You're right. It's not a fragrance. It's not a perfumey, but it does everything that I need to do. It takes the day off, but my face also doesn't feel stripped. And again, knowing that there's nothing toxic in there, that there's no endocrine disruptors, that there's nothing that I need to be concerned about at the end of the day is phenomenal. You can you quickly highlight, so you talked about the mist, and you don't have a serum. You talked about the lip balm. What are and the moisturizer? Is that sort of the essentials in the line? Is there anything else?
Actually, we've got a creamy cleanser, and this
Okay.
one is definitely geared for really those with sensitive skin. It's very soothing. It doesn't lather at all. So it's
Okay.
great for anyone undergoing any sort of treatment. Great for, pregnant women who's, especially with like hormonal acne, or just like you start to get dry patches or combination skin, it's wonderful. And I love this product, especially as the weather changes.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
we
you're
called
not in
it
California
calming.
anymore, girl.
No,
Yeah,
no,
now
we're not.
now you're gonna know what the snow is, what we have to deal with here in New York. But yeah, once the temperature drops and that humidity is not in the air, you need all the hydration you can get.
Absolutely. So we've got 2 different cleansers in our line, that exfoliating cleanser and then this
Okay.
creamy cleanser. The moisturizer I talked about, it's an oil-free daily moisturizer. We actually, I like to say it's, pretty power packed. It's got anti-pollution and blue light protection. It's got probiotics and prebiotics. So when we were thinking of these products, ultimately it's how is it going to help your skin heal and also just maintain a great barrier, and just thinking of healthy skin, right?
Yeah.
Not in terms of specific issues like wrinkles or fine lines or like hyperpigmentation. That was
Right.
not what we were focused on. It was very much just what kind of issues do sensitive skin present,
Right.
and then how can we help that and go beyond by improving that experience.
Right.
And so I mentioned the lip balm, the mist, and then our latest launch, which is our ultra hydrating body butter.
Ooh,
Yeah, this one
nice.
is actually quite a favorite from people who've tried the entire line, because with body butters, I think a big thing with a lot of body butters is they're greasy, right? Like
Yeah.
they may be hydrating, but then like you
Yeah.
see it on your hands and it's greasy, and then you feel like you got to wash them again or
I'm a
something.
night shower, so like the bed sheets, it's the worst. Like you have to like make sure you're covered up and then like kind of dry for a little bit. Yes, absolutely. You're so spot on.
Yeah, so that took us some time because we were really trying to get something more rich, but
Yeah.
not greasy. And that was a big aim for us for in formulating. And so I think those who've tried it really notice that their hands and anything they touch, you don't see that like grease mark on your phone or whatnot. So um that's been really popular. And I've actually used that in our moisturizer on my kids because they've got eczema,
Yeah.
especially when the winter comes, inside the elbows, behind the knees, like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
constantly.
We call it side cream season in my house because my husband gets irritated, I think, from maybe where his belt hits his pants, but it's always on his
Oh
sides.
no,
So his
yeah.
sides right here are always itchy. And I'm like, is it side cream season? And he's like, it's side cream season. So that's what we call it here in the house. And yeah, and especially once you have that sensitive skin, you have to be very careful because perfumes can be
Mm-hmm.
problematic. I did a body tightening procedure on my stomach. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have sensitive skin, but because it was like a microneedling RF
Oh,
procedure, there were
yeah.
microchannels, and I used something that I've used all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and had such a bad reaction. I had to go on steroid cream, and the doctor explained to me it's
Oh, no.
because, actually, I'm sorry, it wasn't the product I used. It was because I put on clothes that had been washed in my detergent, and I said I'm not allergic. But she's like, you
Oh,
have to do completely dye free because once you're open channels on your skin, you're going to be way more sensitive. But like you said before, going back to sort of full circle, if you're going through any change in your body, certainly with chemo,
mhm.
your body's going to be ultra sensitive, and you have to really be aware of what you're doing. Pregnancy, I'm sure too. You've got to just be aware when your hormones are out of whack and going
Yeah.
nuts. Um,
Not
you
fun.
know, things that are changing. Juliana, I cannot thank you so much for being on here, for creating a line that people can feel good about. And like I said, even those regular gals out there like me and want their husbands to use something, both he and I use it and love that exfoliating cleanser. I just want to thank you so much. You've been an inspiration. And if people want to know more about your products, if they want to see your story a little bit more, where would you like them to go?
They can go to our website, is www.happysecondbirthday.com. And second is 2ND,
Right.
not SECOND. I did want to add, since this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we have a partnership with the National Breast Cancer Foundation. We started it last year and we're continuing it this year. For every product, not just a creamy cleanser, but any product sold, we're donating a calming creamy cleanser to their Hope Kit. And their Hope Kit program is a program where they provide these beautiful boxes to women going through breast cancer treatment. And it just provides, comfort and encouragement, and they are cancer safe products. So last year we donated over $12,000 worth of the moisturizer. And this year we wanted to, donate a different product. So we're going to give a calming creamy cleanser, like I said, for any product purchase. So you could buy a lip balm and we will give a creamy cleanser. And we started that initiative this month. It's called the Buy One, Give One program, and we're going to run it to the end of the year.
Oh, that is so amazing. I mean, I'm getting a little emotional here. Sorry, you started to get a little emotional. I
Well,
just,
no, if you start,
I
then
want
I'm
to
going
thank
to
you.
start.
Yeah, I know. Let's not go there today. I think my hormones are a little out of whack. Of course, as people mentioned, or as you mentioned, happy second birthday. That's happy2ndbirthday.com. Also, you're on Instagram, I know as well. And then, are you sold in any retail stores?
No, not
Not
yet.
yet.
I mean,
Okay,
we would
great.
love to get to that point, but we just aren't yet.
Okay, well then, like I said, go check out the website. She's got a beautiful story up there. The pictures of your father are just so Wonderful and heartwarming. Yeah, I just want to thank you again so much for being on. If you at home listening have any questions you want me to pass on to Juliana or her team, I'm absolutely happy to do so. You can email us at hello@artbeautypodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Art Beauty Podcast. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much, Juliana.
Thank you, Amber.